Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tacks After Dark. I'm your host, Rick, and today I am joined by a very good friend of mine, the illustrious and intelligent Mr. Alex. How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for the intro, man.
Absolutely, man. Good to hear from you. It's been a long time.
Ben, last time I saw you was New Year's Eve 2012.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, in Colorado, man. Doing big things.
Trying to, man. Just trying to get this show going and all that business, man. But thank you for joining us. Alex is joining us from Parana, Brazil. And I know I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that.
Nah, it's okay. It's a Native American. It's Parana. But it's all good, bro. It's not even Portuguese, so you're fine.
Right on, man. Well, again, man, really good to hear from you. And yeah, dude, been way too long. And it's sad that I feel like we could have gotten together and had some conversations before this, but it's always sad when a virus brings friends back together. You know, these circumstances could certainly be better.
Oh no, for sure, man. But even like whenever your like birthdays came up, I was always making sure to let you know I was still out there listening to your vibes, dude.
Oh hell
your,
yeah!
Like sonic vibrations through this world, you know. Always appreciated.
Oh
Still
man,
remember when we first met up with the music. You asked for a bass, give you a fretless bass. You're like, nah, I'm just gonna do it in post. Never mind.
Yeah, exactly, man. That was kind of cool. We met by chance. We Alex and I used to be neighbors when I still lived in Myrtle Beach. And since then, he and I have split off into completely opposite directions of the globe, but have maintained the friendship.
Yeah, man. You know, no matter how far we end up, it's good to know that I always you have a friend in me, man. You know, beyond any infinity.
Fuck yeah, dude.
So if you ever need
Likewise.
anything, let me know, man.
Hell yeah, man. So we should address the elephant in the room. We're doing this right now. We're having this conversation because I kind of started recently doing these morning and late night live streams, just kind of trying to update and hang out with everybody while we have all this extra time on our hands and kind of discuss the virus and how it's affecting us in our day-to-day routines. And I was glad that you contacted me because I'm really curious. You know, like we're inundated in the States, we're inundated with news about what's going on in the surrounding states, and especially in my area, things have been ramping up pretty crazily. But I definitely want to get a perspective from you, living in a different part of the world. You know, you guys are still at a fairly small amount of cases right now, but I mean, as we've seen, it can spread like wildfire overnight. And I'm just kind of curious, like how you've or if you've seen anything going on day to day in your routine.
No, absolutely. There has been like a great deal of change. I remember first tracking, like the first I ever heard of coronavirus was like from TikTok and shit. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And then, you know, the Chinese media was trying to shut this down. This was maybe in December. I'm like, what in the world? And then I was like, oh, this shit might be serious. And I'm talking to people, have you heard of this? Have you heard? No one hears a thing.
Right.
And then I start hearing like Europe is getting hit. And I'm like, oh shit. And then like, oh, can I swear on this shit? It's the internet.
Oh,
Right?
you can say whatever you want, man. It's brass tacks. We say way worse.
All right, sounds good. Anyways, I don't know if you're trying to get a PBS syndication or anything.
Oh God, no.
But so I started tracking here in Brazil, and when I started tracking, it was 30, and that was maybe 4 or 5 days ago, and now we're up to 1,200, which
Holy
is
shit.
like an insane figure. Yeah. And currently in my city, now we're at 30 confirmed cases with around 300 suspects, no deaths. So that's okay so far. But within this like week, the surge from 30 to 1,200, bunch of beach cities like Ipanema that like every tourist will know, Rio de Janeiro, like they just been kicking people out of the beaches. Here now, cops are just starting to roam the streets, saying get off the streets.
So are
like
they
the restaurant where I work at, I'm a chef by trade. Didn't choose to be, but one of
right?
those hood rats.
Well, I mean, you are a very talented chef. I mean, that's another thing too. I want to say, if you enjoy pictures of really good food and really well taken pictures, you should follow Alex on Instagram at Chef Alex G843. You do some miraculous work, I have to say.
Oh, thank you, sir. I usually keep it to my lot to the like gone in 24 hours because I'm always a little bit shy, but I gotta work somehow, gotta fit. It's definitely a cool adventure.
Hell yeah, dude.
Being a chef, when definitely like being here has awoken something. Because there's like so much fresh food over here. Like no lie, like food down here just tastes different. It's hard to explain. Like an orange somehow tastes like an orange. It's hard to
Right.
explain, but like food actually has a taste. So I was like, holy shit, maybe I should be doing something else.
Well, that's cool, man. I
But
mean,
getting
how?
back to yeah, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But getting back to topic, no, you're fine. Yeah, the restaurant I worked at, like we completely shut down. Um, so it's just like some people are choosing to do like takeout only, but since I work at a higher end thing, like our food wouldn't survive delivery, it wouldn't even be worth it. But we'll just ride this shit out and see what happens, Because
Exactly.
one like a lot of people are taking really extreme measures, like sanitizing everything, running it through the dishwasher, like bulletproofing everything they need to bulletproof, and having like reserved and like it was too much work for us.
Right.
I don't know how it's over there, but like we were just like, I don't know, we'll just shut things down.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
one is a I don't because it's a plus here because everyone gets salary. Even if you're like a McDonald's worker, you still have like your salary at the end of the month, whether you work or not.
Oh,
Like you're
that's
getting
right.
your like yeah, like
So,
we
so are
don't
you
work
still
by
getting
hourly
paid right
over here,
now?
so yeah, I'm still getting paid.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I wish they would. I wish they would instill something like that here in the states because I mean, I don't know if you've. I don't know how many people you've kept in contact with down in Myrtle, but dude, people are losing their jobs left and right. Being suspended indefinitely or just for foreseeable until the foreseeable future. But a lot of, as you already know, a lot of the business in Myrtle and any tourist town, we thrive on those tourist dollars down there, and it just sucks because you have to try to make this mad dash to pile up all this cash you can to last throughout the winter. And I just don't see that happening unless the state or the government or the federal government steps in and provides some sort of monetary relief because you're going to have turmoil. I mean, it's good that you're still getting paid and stuff like that. And even on my end, I work at a liquor store, and so in good times and in bad, we're always going to be okay. I think we're one of those rare industries that will survive the virus.
No, no, for sure. I'm sure there's some prostitutes out there trying to turn COVID-19 into STD instead of just a virus. They're definitely
Well, dude, have you
they're
seen
putting their
those?
hard work in.
Have you seen those articles? There's as you know, there's certain areas in the U.S. that have legal prostitution and things like that, but they're saying the industry as a whole is taking a hit or taking a hit because of this, and it's it's kind of crazy. It kind of puts things in perspective when the virus is a pussy deterrent, which you don't really see that a lot. It's not. It goes against our nature. It's counterintuitive, but it's crazy. We're all feeling it right now.
No, I'm sure there's definitely in 9 months from now, there's definitely going to be some Corona kids for sure. There's going to be another boom to replace all that we lost.
That's
Ain't
such
shit
a
else to
good
do in
point.
quarantine but to thirst trap people and gamble it all and play Russian roulette.
Thirst trapping
I'm sure
people.
there's definitely some people going to some sketchy areas right now, willing to risk it all just for a little bit of paradise in this turmoil.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you bring up. We are going to have a generation of children coming up that will. I mean, now they're going to be known as the Corona kids. But it's an interesting point because you have to when you have to sequester yourself away or you have to quarantine yourself. There's not too many activities outside of internet and like video games and shit like that. Eventually, you're gonna get down to just some straight up bare bones fucking. And if there's one thing humans are good at, it's doing that. It's good at there. And most of the time, that what sucks is that it's going to be a lot of really unintelligent people procreating during this whole mess. But I guess we just have to roll with the punches as
Yeah,
we are already.
yeah. No, like we got to repopulate the earth somehow, and it's just a take like it's a buffet for all these like lower income people, I suppose, or people of less intelligence who don't even care. I don't know if you saw that thing on what was it on? It was I don't know if it was CNN, fuck CNN, but
Fuck all the news
it was
networks,
on
man.
some. Yeah, no, fuck all of them. But there was like a bunch of like spring breakers down in Florida. They're like, oh, I don't care if I get corona, like I'm still gonna party it up whether I get it or not.
It's
And
funny you
like all
bring
these
that up.
motherfuckers.
We literally we featured them on our show last night on the Baloney Boys segment where we choose somebody that makes an ass of themselves out in public, and we laud them for their stupidity. But yes, we talked about them last night at length, and it's really unbelievable. Fucking Darwinism at its
I know,
finest,
like
I
how can
suppose.
yeah, someone be so like selfish or just ignorant to what is actually going down, like you gotta keep down that curve. And these motherfuckers don't care. And of course it's Florida. Like where else is people gonna be like just not care about anything whatsoever?
Yeah, if there's one thing humankind has proven time and time again, that we are very, very good at creating our own fucking disasters.
Yeah, we are the harbinger of our own war, I suppose,
Yeah, it's
and of
very,
our own calamities. So
very
it
well
is what it
said.
is.
That's why I miss talking to you, man. You always had a really good way of putting things in perspective. I appreciate that about you. Oh, did we lose you? Hello.
Hello.
Hey, what's up, man? Yeah,
I might have cut out. Fuck. I
it's
went in a
okay.
whole spew. It was great. I don't know what got cut, but
It's okay, dude. You're in fucking Brazil. I think we can give you some leeway with the connection.
yeah, just a couple miles away.
Yeah, a stone's throw.
Yeah. But how's your town reacting to everything? Because I know, are you in Denver?
Yeah, I'm actually in a suburb outside of Denver, a little bit closer to the mountains, so like kind of Front Range area. But yeah, dude, we're just now within this past week we started seeing like visible panic, I would say, like where everyone around you, like the dynamic of being out in public has changed drastically. And another thing I was talking about on my show yesterday was the fact that when I went grocery shopping yesterday, there was this overwhelming aura of like panic and uncertainty, and more people were wearing gloves and masks than not, and several people had like turtlenecks flipped over their mouths, and people were staring into each other's grocery carts and just very weird ways. And of course, like several aisles were just depleted. There was absolutely no rice, no sandwich meat, very very little meat in general left. um, the funny part of it was that all the vegan products and all the vegetarian products were still fully stocked up. So I thought that was kind of funny. Like Americans are always going to be picky and choosy about what they eat, even in a pandemic.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure. Like if you go down to the Mexican aisle, there's gonna be a whole bunch of tortillas left over, and God knows what else. Yeah, people like, as you can see, it's not too bad of a pandemic if people are like willing to be choosy over the things they eat.
Exactly, and it was it was really funny because I went down the soup aisle as well. I'm not really a big canned soup guy, but I figured, hey, it's a crisis, why not? And I go down there, and there's absolutely none of the fun soups are left. There's no like chicken tortilla. There's no like beef stroganoff. It's like these fucking weird vegetarian light soups, like low sodium soups, which I know is probably better for you, but again, I'm still trying to maintain my sanity, and one of the ways I do that is through the foods I enjoy. So like, I don't know, it's just weird to see it all playing out in real time like this.
Oh no, absolutely. I definitely had some friends like try to contact me up and like, oh, what can I do with this, and just show me pictures of their cupboard, and
Yeah.
then I'm like, oh.
I bet it is a pretty interesting time to be a chef, man. I bet you got a lot of people reaching out, just like, "Hey, dude, I've been eating air sandwiches and water smoothies the past week. What can I do with this?"
Yeah, yeah, just some water slushies and shit.
Exactly.
I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, you throw a lime in there, you got a half-ass of a margarita. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, I know. I really
But
looking back on it, I picked a hell of a time to quit drinking, dude. I haven't drank in like a little over a year, and I was thinking to myself the other day as I'm sitting in my little station here, I was like, man, this would have been peak peak drinking time. In the middle of a crisis, you kind of like that Snake Plissken character, take a swig of whiskey and go out and do God's work.
yeah, dude, no, for sure. Speaking of God's work and groceries and everything, speaking of the groceries here, everything. No, every the groceries like there's huge massive lines. People are stockpiling what they got to stockpile, but like so far there hasn't been any shortages that I can see or empty shelves. So on that front, here is okay,
That's good. That's
which
good.
is pretty good. Yeah.
I feel
So
like
I don't know if it's people not freaking out yet or what it is, but or what everything's well stocked. But so far everything's okay. But as you were saying, like it seems like it's a silent killer, this new virus, because like when you look at it, it's like basically a war because we haven't been through like any wars, you and I, because we're in the same generation.
right.
And like I always watch these movies. I'm like, I wonder what it is to live like through an actual war, like World War II and one, and what were these people actually doing? And I wonder if this is like a small sample of what that would be. Because like you look at like the U.S. casualties in World War II, it's like 400,000 in the whole campaign, and we haven't even reached that, and people are already freaking the fuck out, and there's already no stocks left of anything. So I wonder what like an actual war would look like in our times, you know?
I think you bring up an interesting point because you're right. It is very if there's one thing that war does almost immediately is it changes the overall zeitgeist. It changes the way that everybody feels about one another. It changes the way that we process information around us. And that's exactly what this virus is doing. It's forcing us to all kind of like step back and take a look at our own mortality, even more so than we do already. And touching on the point that yes, it's a very mysterious virus and shit like that. It's never a good feeling to have that looming essence of uncertainty around you in your day to day life because, as we know, life is hard enough as it is. But I think that's a very interesting point. That yes, this is about as close to experiencing some sort of wartime, you know, is in terms of how it affects the world, and that's a really good comparison, World War II, because it was similar to what we're experiencing now. It's affecting everyone, and it looks like no matter where you try to run, you can't really get out of its way.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that has reached globally and affecting everyone. So it is interesting to look at as, yeah, like kind of like a war, but it's just more silent.
Right.
So, and then you start thinking, like, I wonder how it is for other people in other places, these war-torn countries. Like, we're here bitching and moaning, and like these places don't have electricity, they don't even have internet, and people are still bitching about a quarantine,
Or
and
not being
like
able to
those
wipe their
fuckers in
asses.
Florida, yeah, fuckers in Florida, like, oh, I'm gonna get drunk anyways, fuck y'all. And then I'm like, really, dude? Like, there's bigger issues. And then some guy actually brought up a point. He's like, oh, there's more serious things like shortage of food. I think, yeah, in the same video, he's like, oh, there's a shortage of food, there's world hunger, there's wars, and like, what is that guy doing to like help with the war and like the food shortage? He's not doing anything. And the one thing he can do is help Corona, and he's not doing it. So it just shows how big of a piece of shit people are, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I read a news article yesterday on the show that detailed that this man he had stolen 18,000 pounds of toilet paper and various paper products, and they were looking to store the products and then resell them to people that were in need of it at a markup. And it's crazy because another thing that we're forced to come to terms with in times like these is that we're going to see a lot of the worst of humans, and we're going to see some people kind of rising to the occasion, becoming better. But it just sucks because that ratio is always so far off balance. It always seems like there's way more shitheads in the bunch than not.
Now, yeah, it's really, really unfortunate, man. Um, and speaking of God's work, I still remember that New Year's Eve where we met up and you were walking around with like I think it was a 357 for the shits and giggles. I'm like, what so I guess you're ready for if the worst comes to the worst, you know?
You remember too much. That was a
I
good
do,
night.
man. To a fault, man.
Yeah, I feel you, dude. I live the same. I don't know. It's nice to have like a really nice, detailed memory, but sometimes the memories are too detailed, and you grow up and you're like, you know what? If this hadn't happened, maybe I wouldn't have grown up to be such a spiteful asshole, and things like that. But I don't know. I'll take the boost of intelligence over the ignorance any day.
Oh yeah, that's you're talking about quitting drinking. That's one of the reasons why I quit drinking because I don't know what your reasons were, But I quit drinking because I would always drink because I would just remember back at adolescence days, and then I would drink myself to get into a hole, so I can get into this hole of self pity, and all like I would just relive all of these moments that went wrong in my life and shit like that, and I was like, oh, this isn't healthy, like that was the main reason why I was drinking. Um, it would be like a Monday, I would just turn off my phone and then just and somehow end up in my bed, and like I had to take public transportation. I had to take like 3 buses from like downtown to where I live, and I would wake up like, how the fuck am I even home?
Right.
So I was like, yeah, I gotta stop drinking. I gotta stop doing this shit.
Yeah,
So it does come, there's a consequences to having a good memory.
exactly. And that's actually a very valid point. I feel like a lot of the reason I was doing that was a lot of the same. It's just you think about the past, you think about things that could have been done differently, and like it's a very easy way to escape. And I was kind of like playing it off because it's like when you're surrounded by friends and you can be partying all the time, it's like no one really suspects you of being an alcoholic when you're always at a party. You know what I mean? Like when you're at a party, it's expected of you. But what nobody realized is that like for almost a decade straight after that party was over, I go home and I keep drinking, and then like I wake up and I keep drinking and shit like that. And it became a routine that was just like tearing my body up inside, and I started feeling it. And I think it really started to show in the way that I was like treating people and the way that I appeared overall. Like, because my face was super bloated, my skin felt really bloated. I just didn't feel like I was doing too well in life. And so, that I realized very early on when I wanted to make a change in my life, I was like, okay, well, that's the first thing that has to go. But it's not easy, and it's not easy to kind of be vulnerable with yourself like that and be honest with yourself, because at the end of the day we're all born with like some form of a god complex, just due to the fact that we're human beings and we create and destroy at will. So it's really hard for us to kind of sit back, take an honest look at ourselves and be like, oh, you need to fix this, you should change this, you should quit that, because our whole existence is built upon us building up shields against people saying those things to us.
No, absolutely. It's definitely hard to like raw dog reality in life, and we look for these escapes. We try to
Yes.
find out, try to make sense of it all. And so I salute to like I completely understand trying to like drink and escape it, but sometimes it's not the answer. Like it got down to a point where like I would get the shakes, and I was working an office job, and like I had to go buy
Oh,
beer
that's
at
the
7 o'clock in the
worst.
morning.
Yes, the
Yeah,
shakes are the
dude.
worst, man, because you can't do anything about it and you look like a fucking psychopath to everyone around you.
Exactly, like 7 in the morning. Who's buying beers? And I'm like, I step off the bus, and then there's like these like hole in the walls where they sell like cheap liquor, and I'm just over there like fiending for a beer so I can stop the shakes or so I can stop the withdrawal symptoms. And
Exactly.
like that's not, they don't show you that glamour. You see that glamour on movies, like, oh, I drink just fine, I drink whiskey and like fine as scotch, but they don't show the true grit and the reality of things. Like I was like hunkered down, making sure no one sees me drinking a beer at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Dude, Hollywood
And
does a
when you're doing
fine
that, you
job.
don't even realize
Yeah,
it.
exactly. And Hollywood does a fine job of glamorizing alcoholism. It's the
Yeah,
worst.
like, and we were talking like about parties. We are a product of our environment, maybe because we are from Myrtle Beach. Like if we talk to any of our friends, a good chunk of them are still in that life, still getting drunk, getting high, doing dumb shit, just to do dumb shit. I don't know if it's a Myrtle Beach thing because it has the highest fucking thing right now, doesn't it? Homicide and criminal rate.
It's up there. It's always been
Like,
up there. Year after year, the crime statistics don't seem to improve much. And that's a sad
yeah,
reality of it. Is that a lot of that has to do with the fact that, like I was saying before, many of the locals and anyone who's lived there for an extended period of time realizes very quickly that if you don't make a certain amount of money over those tourism months, then your entire winter is spent struggling, and then that's where you're going to get your increase in drug trafficking and general crime overall, because people are much more desperate to survive. And I don't think the city really does a good job of managing itself. I mean, how many Ponzi schemes and issues has there been with the local government there? It's, I don't know. There's a
oh
lot
yeah,
that could be changed.
yeah, for sure, dude. Like. I remember like being 16, getting hobos to buy beer over there at 38th and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I remember it was just all every weekend was just about like, let's get fucked up, let's go to Broadway, let's go somewhere else, let's go to Magoo's. And I wonder if Magoo's is still serving underage, if that's just still on the hush hush, and we're really like,
Dude, it's funny. I mean, you always do read about like shit like that going down every once in a while, but that's the thing. It's like put some money into the city, put some money into infrastructure, make it a safer place to be. And it does it kind of goes it's obvious to us like cuz you and I come from relatively modest backgrounds. You know, none of us are millionaires or anything like that. So it always seems so clear cut when you're living on that ground level. It's like it's easier to make the right decisions because you've lived it and you walked that path and you've seen other people struggling around you, and it's just natural to want to lift people up around you. But when you are the handful of people that are the controlling factors of what goes down on this planet, and you're living in such excess, you're essentially building a bubble around yourself, and you're not ever going to see the reality of the situation at hand. And it's
oh,
discouraging
absolutely. No, especially when you're young, like you think you're the center of your own little universe, you
and
know.
very
You just gotta,
idealistic.
yeah, you just give no fucks to anyone around you or anything else. And then yeah, you really have to take a step back, and that's what like a fault of Myrtle Beach, like they really should invest in something to broaden people's horizons, or any small town in the USA, you know, like most people never leave their states or like their cities and stuff,
Right.
and they're proud of that, you know. Then they really do forget that like it's a global thing. Like you're not the only snowflake, like you're unique just like everyone else. Like there should be something, an escape, especially to the youth. I remember a friend of mine got his first felony charge was because he was trying to like rob liquor, you know, like that should say something about the programs they have in Myrtle, because there is absolutely jack shit to do there.
Yeah, I've been very lucky to have never been arrested in Myrtle Beach. Like I've had several friends who have been, but like yeah, the justice system, that's another thing, man. I feel like, you know, that's something that could stand to be altered drastically. Like the fact that we live in a world where there's for-profit prisons is just astounding to me. That makes no sense. It creates a demand for crime. And then there's you've seen several stories over the years of like all these judges who are secretly in the pockets of these for-profit prisons, and they wrongfully convict people, mostly minorities and people that are already facing disadvantages socially and economically, and that right there just kind of flies in the face of forward progress, and people wonder why we have such a negative attitude towards law enforcement officers. And personally, I know plenty of law enforcement officers that are good people. They do their best to improve the communities in which they work, but unfortunately, like I said before, you know, you've got those handful of good people, and then they're just kind of scattered amongst a crowd of shit. And it's like, what are they supposed to do? You know, it's kind of I don't know. It's like you're always just kind of trying to run in quicksand or something.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Here's the same ordeal. Like the rich people don't get arrested, and usually the poor people don't get arrested. They usually target the middle class because the middle class is people that can like pay off bond. They're the ones that can pay for lawyers. They're the ones that can do whatever it takes to get their loved ones from jail, from whether it's a little fuck up or a big fuck up, you know.
Right.
Um, so there's definitely, even here, there's, you can see that that complex, that prison complex going down. Because like usually the poor people, they're like, oh, it's not worth the bother. It's just gonna be a burden. Let's get the middle class. I know like many, because I work at a high end place, and here, at least in my state, it's a zero tolerance. So if you blow anything above a zero, your ass is already in for a DUI.
Holy
And
shit.
like a lot of rich people, yeah, zero tolerance. Like if you eat like a liqueur candy, like good luck trying to explain that.
A
Um,
liqueur candy.
and yeah, a little like if you do like mouthwash, there'll be some alcohol in that. Like, you know,
She
I'm sure you
fell
could
onto
explain
my
it.
penis.
Yeah,
I had three
yeah,
Schlitz coffee hard candies.
yeah. it really is hardcore. Like there, but still, like all these rich people that came to my restaurant, they'll easily take two, three bottles to the head and just drive off like no big deal. And we'd be like, "Oh, aren't you worried?" Be like, "Nah, they never stop me," and they'll drive off in their little Land Rovers or fucking little Mercedes, and they literally no one would ever get arrested. Like we would never
Yeah.
get harassed by like fucking undercovers or anything like that.
Right, because
Like
people
people
already
like
know they have the means to get themselves out of any trouble, so nothing's gonna stick anyway.
yeah, exactly. And then
Yeah.
here like there's always like, oh, I know a judge, I know the DA, I know the DA assistant. And then it's just like I remember when I was private chefing, there was a senator came through and shit, and like all these rich people, like you see how well connected they are. Like, how in the fuck am I just like serving one of the state senators right now? Just because I'm
Yeah.
just at this rich person's house and they owned an engineering firm, and I'm like, what the fuck,
That's the weird
Like
thing
it's
about money is that once you reach a certain level with your wealth, then it's like you're automatically kind of inducted into a small group of the controlling factors of the region in which you live in. And it's like you don't really have a choice because if you decide not to go in league with these people, then they have the power to take that wealth from you or destroy your reputation or make sure that you can't amass any more wealth. It's a self-defeating
um,
person, or it's a self-defeating uh cycle, I suppose. Like if you try to do any good with that money.
oh yeah, no, they'll corrupt you. You can start off with the best intentions, and I definitely have seen that. And you just see this person getting corrupted more and more and more. And then it's just I don't know, money brings money, and I guess people forget their humble upbringings, and they just want to keep on the rat race. They want to keep getting more money. They want to show off to their other rich friends, like, oh, you were able to get this car. I was able to get the same car, but with better rims. And it's just their own little like it's such a dull lifestyle. If that's what that's what you're living off, then that's not a life I want to be part of.
Yeah, me either. And it's sad because that's basically what the power structure that governs the planet, that's basically what they tell us is proper and that's the way to live. I mean, it's such a materialistic approach to life, and it's got to leave you feeling very empty because I feel like most people they grow up thinking that this is all the right way to go about life. Like you do your classic go to school, have a family, have some kids, try to amass some wealth so you can leave it to your kids so they can work a slightly less work intensive lifestyle than you did. And it's sad because like I've never felt like humans were put here on this planet to work their lives away. Just it's a pimp ho situation where you're working for somebody else's money just so they can break you off a little bit of it and you can take that back to your family and try to spread it out for the month or by the week. Like here in the States, it's always people living paycheck to paycheck. And down there, is it a monthly thing or do you guys do like biweekly payment?
Yeah. Getting back to the thing, to like living in America, I'll answer your question. That's why I left because I could see the writing on the wall. I was 22 when I left, so I was like, I'm just gonna get stuck in the system, and I had the same thing. I had the same plans. Um, Fucking, I was like, oh, get married, become legit, and then you figure something out. But I was like, there has to be more to this. It has to be like life is supposed to have more meaning. There has to be something better. And then I was just like researching Brazil, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go back to the land I'm from. And that brings up the salary thing. Is like whenever I tell people, like, oh, I used to live in the States for a long time, they're like, holy shit, why are you even here? And I'm like, the thing you don't realize about America is that it is the land of milk and honey, but they don't tell you that the milk is expensive and the honey is bitter. And that's how I look at it.
I love you, dude. I
And
love I
then,
love the way you speak.
thank you, brother, thank you. But sadly, it's true. And like at 22, I realized this. I'm just gonna get stuck. Like my parents left here from Brazil to make something better, and like they went there and nothing really was better. They were working, their hands to the bone, and nothing really changed. The only thing was like, oh, we live in America now, but there was no great benefits. And same thing goes with my other relatives that are there. Um, like they get legalized through papers, marriage, whatever.
Right.
Because a lot of us come illegally, but they're still doing the same bullshit. Like they just can drive with driver's licenses and they're legal, but they're still like working these like hard labor jobs. Even the second generation, they're not doing much with their lives at all. They're just either going to work with their parents or branch off, but they're still doing the same thing. So there hasn't been much improvement. And then I figured here is a little bit better because most people get paid monthly,
Hmm.
and there's like a really good things like at the end of December, you get the 13th payment, and basically it's an extra like salary. Whatever you get is you get an extra at the end of the month,
Oh,
so you
that's
get
cool.
twice salary on this. Yeah, that's just pretty legit.
Yeah.
After 1 year of working, you get 1 month of paid leave. Doesn't matter if you're a McDonald's worker, you can be the fry cook, you can be the cleaning lady. It doesn't matter what. Same like equal rights for everybody. 1 month paid leave, 3 months of no, I think 6 months of paid maternity.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
yeah, and also when you work, part of your taxes go into like a government 401k, and so like whenever you quit, you can either withdraw that money or you can just keep it saving, and so that's pretty cool.
Wow, that's really
So
badass.
yeah, yeah. So like it's an interesting dynamic trying to figure out how all of that worked. I was like, wait, you guys get paid twice in the summer? And like it was just like I was baffled by the system. I was like, how, you know? And
Yeah.
like you get a 401k automatically, like you don't have to worry. So it's definitely like a different like lifestyle. Like I live the same lifestyle I did in America. Like I'm still able to buy my things, do whatever, but I have more time, more downtime for friends. I have downtime to go into the farmers market, look at random bullshit, be creative if I want to. There's definitely here. There's not as much pressure as to like be in the rat race. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to no. What are you doing? You're just standing by. You're idle. Why are you idle? Like you have to be doing something. Consume, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And here it's just like, whatever, dude. Like, if you want to go have a barbecue with your friends, do what you got to do. It's definitely a different thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's something that the states could learn from is just like just slow the fuck down for a minute. Take a look at everything around you, kind of appreciate, the fact that you're alive and still breathing and just chill the fuck out, man. The craziest thing about living in like a bigger city or something like that is the fact that like people are so encapsulated with what's going on in their own lives that we just completely disregard one another, and it's only getting worse and worse through the implementation of like technology being ever more present in our lives. But it's like, you know eh, at some point, if this virus doesn't make us wake up a little bit, at some point we are going to have to realize that like if we expect to ever advance as a race of human beings on this planet, or if we're ever going to make a future better for ourselves, like eventually we're going to have to stop, look around, and come together and figure out some sort of like common common agenda. And I'm not even saying like, oh, one world government, or oh, like, close down the borders, but it's like, can we at least stop all the divisiveness in the media? Can we stop the divisiveness amongst one another? It's just a vicious cycle that only serves the purpose of those handful of people that fucking run the planet.
Absolutely, man. People definitely need to broaden their horizons to every. My brothers went to school here. They moved down a little bit. They went through high school, and like I was looking at through their books and what they're teaching here, it's like a completely different thing than just America. You know, it's like they teach about other parts of the world. Not only like for their like language elective, they had like 10, 20 different options of whatever the fuck they wanted to learn. um it goes beyond just like a week of heritage. It goes beyond like Black History Month. It goes like there's like history from all over the world. Like, oh, like for these 2 months we're going to learn about Russia, and then this and then that. And then it's just like truly like I think that's the first step for us to become better human beings, is to realize other people's human experiences and see what other people are going through. And so I guess it comes into theme of this podcast, I suppose, because they're reaching out globally, and so trying to widen everybody's they'll widen their little broadband of the information they soak in. Hopefully, there's a good chunk of people listening. can
Yeah, I mean,
understand that.
yeah, it's all about
You know,
perspective, and that's one thing that this whole virus issue has kind of sparked in me is like I'm extremely curious about how everyone's handling it in the different phases that it's in around the globe, and it's just I don't know. I feel like we're going to be inundated with information about it for the next like 3 or 4 months. Hopefully, on the low end of things, I'm hoping it gets. I'm hoping the world can get it under control sooner because it's just, we weren't ready. We weren't ready for it, and I mean, whoever is, but I mean, I think at this point we need to get this contained, and then we need to really go back to the drawing board as far as how we handle global pandemics, and that's going to take a lot of the
exactly.
world's developed nations to get together and devise a plan. And we've got to do something about these underdeveloped nations that don't have the resources to keep it under control because that's just a powder keg waiting to explode. It's ridiculous how quickly these things spread, especially in rural communities. There's very little information available to those people. So I mean, it's just crazy. It's the year 2020. There's 1 billionaire could solve all the world's problems, all the world's main problems with just a fraction of their fortune, and it's
Yeah,
insane.
no, that's absolutely insane. Yeah, go like due to poverty, China had established wet markets, and like look at where we're up now. You know, SARS came from it. And I'm obviously not blaming China or anything like that, but it's just due to this. I don't want to say capitalist demand of like provide food, but like people had to survive and go by their popular of not wealthy people had to go find their food, and it just brings you like humbles yourself to see how lucky you truly are with all the things you have, that you don't have to go to a wet market to find a chicken and hope that it's clean,
Yeah, that's a really good
and
point too. Just the
it's
amount of the
insane.
dirty work that gets done for us before it even hits our plate is astounding.
Oh, absolutely, man, absolutely. Like even like me cooking definitely has like I've gone more down to everything, like
Oh shit, the
insane.
call's dropping out a little bit. Give me just 1 second. See if I can't get this.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Um, yeah, no, people don't realize how grown and packages they put low sodium or not, like how it came to be.
Right.
And we really are lucky that we live in the like that we can do that. We have that choice, and that we don't have to go and suffer through a wet market and seeing like a chicken being butchered right in front of you,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah, that's very true. Could you imagine? I mean, children nowadays, like in developed parts of the world, are just so like shielded from a lot of those realities. Could you imagine if overnight there was some sort of like nuclear holocaust and all of a sudden we were living hand to mouth and just in a survivalist world? What a shock that would be to everyone. It's just I don't know. It's crazy. I feel like we could definitely afford to implement some more of the realities of life and the realities of food and resources and the things that we use on a daily basis, just to see the perspective and to not just use up the natural resources of the planet without, I guess, appreciating what it takes to cultivate it and what it takes to for it to even be created in the first place. Like things like petroleum products and we're talking about fossils and shit at that point. That's a very finite resource that we have, and I just don't want to. I don't want generations of human beings to be continuously raised on this planet without truly realizing and appreciating what it is that we were given on this planet.
No, absolutely. If anything, you just got to look at Venezuela and what happened over there, due to shortages of food. The president was all like, there's going to be some shortages. I recommend you start growing some chickens. Like, can you imagine Trump doing that to like Americans, dude? No one's going to start doing that.
It's
People aren't
crazy.
ready for that reality.
Speaking of that, dude,
And
man, I can't believe it. His whole dancing around being tested for the virus and stuff like that. It's like, dude, this is not the time to do the baby routine. Like just get tested, put people's minds at ease, quit trying to be mysterious and shit like that. I feel like our president is kind of like an edge lord. Like he reminds me a lot of an edgy teenager who kind of goes against the
Yeah,
grain for the sake of being edgy, you know?
yeah, dude. Yeah, just says shit for shock value just to see if it gets a rise out of people. It's
Yeah, and
insane.
it fucking works every time. It's crazy. Like I don't have any affiliation to any political party, and I've been very open about this in the past. But like I've never voted or anything like that, and I just refuse to play their game because at the end of the day, like
Yeah,
we're only allowed to choose from the pool of people that this handful of corporations that runs the country fucking gives us to vote for. You know what I mean? It to me, it's more or less watching theater play out. You know, I'm watching these guys fucking beat this script to death over and over again, election year after election year. But at the very least, like the way that I handle it is just like you got to sit back, appreciate the humor, like the natural humor that ensues, and just roll with the laughs. That's all you can do.
yeah, no, it's sad that even to this point that we live in, even politics is manufactured. Like you just can't escape from whatever complex or industry. Everything's an industry. There is no, even like if you want to be an artisan, there's like basically a lobby of artisans and shit. Like you
Right.
can't get anywhere without just being yourself anymore. There's
That's
always
true.
something. There's always like like along with the carrot, you're always gonna see the stick. And I think that's the what we're living right now, you know.
Another brilliant analogy. I like that. But that's a very good point, dude.
And I
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, bro.
Oh, it's okay. I got to take a sip of water. I've got the cotton mouth like crazy.
Are you still getting high, boy?
Oh yeah, I mean it's readily available out here in Colorado. It keeps me sane. That's the one thing. I mean,
Uh,
giving up the drinking wasn't hard, but like I don't think Daddy's gonna be giving up the marijuana anytime soon. It's just it keeps me way too level. I don't freak out in traffic and shit. I don't remember the last time I actually got mad enough to yell or anything.
no, that's good. Yeah, here I don't think legalization of any sort is gonna come through. Like main providers of weed is like brickweed from Paraguay, and it is the most laughable thing in the world. One day I bought it once just for the giggles,
Yeah.
and it's like it was like no lie, 28 grams, a full ounce, in like the size smaller than a cigarette box. And I'm like,
What?
the guy's like, oh, I can give you 28 grams. And I'm like, holy shit, awesome, you know? And it was like maybe like equivalent to $10. And I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, let me go, bro.
Yeah, that
And then
sounds
I
like a
just get the,
deal at first sight there, you know.
yeah, if you don't know shit, you know? And it's just like this compressed fucking brown ass motherfucking thing. And then I'm just like, that's insane. So it's good to see that getting legalized and everything like that. Is that what made you go to Denver, or you were just like looking at it and was like, "Fuck it, let's go"?
No, originally it was just the fact that like me and you remember Skylar. Me and Skylar were just like so sick
Yeah, I
of
remember Skylar.
yeah, we were so sick of doing the daily routine in Myrtle and like the monotony of it all. And I one of our buddies had a connection with a couple of dispensary owners here. And so originally, like what made us want to move wasn't necessarily the weed itself. Skylar and I wanted to move out to a different place that had like more options as far as music and stuff was concerned because we were still making music at the time. And, we had these jobs already secured for us at the dispensary. So we were like, it's kind of a no brainer, like we're looking for this adventure. Here's this adventure on a silver platter. And we moved out and shit, that was like 6 years ago, little like almost 6.5 years ago. And I mean, it just I don't
Yeah,
know. It
2012, 2013.
yeah yeah. So like yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there, and then like we just kind of found some things we were good at and took life by the balls, as it were.
Yeah, man, it's that great urge when you're young to go see things and get out from your comfort zone and make you nervous and make you jittery, but it's what
Yeah.
keeps you on point, you know?
Yeah, I strongly suggest that like if you're feeling unfulfilled in life or if something isn't quite right and you feel stagnant, just go build a life somewhere else. Just try it. Like I feel like that's one of the greatest confidence boosters is if you're feeling unaccomplished and you feel like you're not doing enough with your life, pick somewhere that you're interested in. Go there, visit. If you like it, move there for like a year or two. You know what I mean? Like what are you doing right now? Are you stuck in a dead end town with a dead end job? Find an opening with that dead end job in another place and just go there and work the same way you're doing it where you are now, but just with different surroundings. You'd be amazed at how menial tasks in a unfamiliar setting can be very energizing. You know, like you're working for your own survival and to prove to yourself that you can make a life out of nothing. That that breeds confidence, and it takes balls and
Absolutely.
chutzpah.
Yeah, yeah, great words of encouragement, man. Absolutely. I remember coming to Brazil, like, holy shit, what the fuck am I doing? Like for the whole plane ride, I did not sleep. I was just looking at the little map on the TV screen,
Yeah,
on the seats, just watching. And I'm, what the fuck am I doing? And then I get here, I'm like, all right, let's go. So definitely, if you're young and you got the time and you have nothing hankering down you, you just go for it. You gotta grab life by the balls and deep throat that dick, man.
that's
You
right.
just
Take
gotta
it
take
take it down to the bag.
it. There's not much else to do. You
Yeah,
gotta
exactly.
reinvent yourself. You can change or you can stay the same.
Yeah,
But I hope,
I was so worried when
go ahead.
when I first moved out here. I was like really worried about like, oh shit, am I gonna be able to make it? Am I gonna be able to like do this? I had that same realization on the plane when I was like, dude, I've got a bag with me. I've got like a couple grand, and I've got to go out here and make a life with that, And luckily, a couple of my friends are showing up a week from now, so I won't be completely alone. But like, that's another thing. If I hadn't had the awesome friend group that I had, I would not have been able to make it here because I had several people open their homes to me and my friends and allow us to like stay there while we worked and got on our feet and got some money saved up. So that was like a massive advantage right there. And I can't thank them enough. Like that's one thing I've always been thankful for throughout my entire life is like I feel like I have one of the greatest group of friends on the planet, you
That's good,
included.
man. Whatever happened to Les Quest and all that good stuff?
Oh, dude, everybody started. Everybody's, to my knowledge, everybody's still making music and doing music and stuff like that. But creatively, everybody just kind of went in a different direction. But everybody's still cool and shit. I still listen to those
Oh,
tracks sometimes, like just to reminisce.
oh hell yeah, dude! Fucking Vital Information. I blast it once a month or something like that, dude.
Oh, nice. You were way too kind. I haven't listened to that song in
Nah,
so
it's
long.
true.
But yeah, that
Yeah,
was
man.
that was definitely one of the best
That was
bands I was ever in. It was so much fun.
No, really, it was really fun, like being your neighbors and seeing you guys go through all of this stuff. Like, it definitely was an interesting take on it, and
Yeah,
seeing you like guys mature and everything else, and trying to like hustle and scheme to do what you guys had to do.
yeah,
So part of
man.
me was all like, and then it's like, oh, Rick isn't in anymore. Then I lost all interest, really.
Thank you. You're very kind. I've heard that a couple of
Nah,
times.
yeah, like old buddy was like they try to do like episodic releases. They're like slice of pizza back in the day, or was it some fish?
Oh no,
I
no,
don't know
those
what
were
those.
two different projects that the guys went on to do afterwards. But I really liked both of those projects that they went after. That's the thing is
Yeah,
like everyone was so talented in that group of people that like eventually we were gonna get kind of stifled by the same framework of the same songs over and over again. So like when everybody went their separate ways creatively, then like it really wasn't anything like crazy. It wasn't anything that like I would say was a negative in any of our lives. And the cool thing about it is that like we all still at some point or another keep in touch.
that's good, man. That's good. Skylar's still over there?
No, actually, he just recently moved to Oklahoma. He's started another adventure.
Oh, there you go, man. Life full of adventures. And when's your next big adventure, bro?
Oh God, I'm currently living it. You're experiencing it right now with this show. I'm this is I don't know. This is another thing that kind of came out of moving here to Colorado. Is I found this weird obsession with broadcasting and like old radios and like ham radios and just radios in general. And this has been like one of the greatest kind of epiphanies in my life, especially as an adult, because I feel like it's very rare that people get a chance or a platform to express themselves freely on. And another thing is that a lot of people's insecurities about themselves kind of hold them back, and I'm one of those people. But like, I find that if I just turn the microphone on and I'm honest about what I'm saying, it kind of just comes out naturally. And I think that's why I love this hobby so much, and I'm slowly turning it into an actual like full-time job because of all this shit that goes into it.
Oh, dude, yeah, no, like we're talking when we were talking, setting this up, I could definitely see we're definitely putting like you're definitely laying down some good guidelines and stuff like that. And I see that you are serious about this thing, so I wish good futures for you and great success. And if you ever want me back, man, just let me know. It'd be a great pleasure.
Oh fuck yeah, dude. We're definitely gonna do this more, and I've really enjoyed doing these live streams here and there because it's kind of fun to just sit back and like just whoever wants to pop in and watch can do it. Whoever wants to talk can do it, and I like to offer everyone who's listening or watching. You know, if you ever want to come on one of these hangouts, either in the morning or when I do Brass Tacks After Dark, you know, you guys can always send me a message or hit me up through any of our social medias, and I'll be happy to have you on and just kind of have a conversation. No pressure. We just kind of hang out, you know, talk about life.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's been great. Like, well, we've been at this for like an hour. It doesn't even feel like it.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's crazy, man. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And I used to be such a nervous fucking punk about it, dude. I would have like, I actually have a few notes written down right now that I've just kind of been glancing over, but I have notebooks all over the place. And in the formative years of our show, I would have like 3 pages full of like just nervously written notes to try to regurgitate back over the microphone in an hour long period. And I'm happy to say that I've definitely gotten a lot better at formatting the show and kind of keeping everything on a good timeline.
Oh, absolutely. I understand what you mean. It goes back to like those shower conversations you have with yourself. It's like, damn, I should have went and said that. Or like you're getting prepared and then you're like, oh, I can't believe I didn't say that. So I can understand that nervousness and trying to write things down to keep things in track, you know? So you're being a good host to all of this, man. I appreciate all your hard work, and your people should definitely listen to this because I can see all the hard work you're putting into it. And if you keep on going, man, you can do anything. Sooner or later, bro, you might even have Joe Rogan on your shit.
Jesus Christ, that would be nice. I wouldn't mind that exposure. I can tell you that much. Daddy's kind of sick of
Oh
working the
no,
day
that
job.
motherfucker is like fucking bulletproof. That motherfucker can get anybody.
Yeah, that's true, man. It's crazy. I definitely I'd love to see those numbers, but you know we'll get there. It's going to be a steady drive, but I have no doubt we'll be fine, especially with the years to come. You know we've put a lot of work into our production value, and it's already paying off, and it's kind of cool. You know, during this whole virus situation, people have a lot more free time. People are at home. They're listening to more podcasts, and we're definitely seeing that in our numbers. So it's kind of cool to be
Oh,
people's
that's great, man.
go-to.
Yeah, I know. A voice of calm and a voice of calm and reason during all this chaos is always a great thing to have.
Yeah, well said, man. We
Especially
could all use that.
yeah, just a small voice, whether no matter what voice, as long as there's a voice of reason, and
Hell
this,
yeah.
that makes all the difference in the world. Like the wrong person at the right time makes all the difference in the world.
Fuck yeah, man. Very well
And
said.
so we gotta do what we gotta do, man. No, it's definitely a great pleasure, man. And as a friend said in one of his songs, you gotta be all you gotta be, you know.
Man, you're killing me over here, man. You're gonna make my heart explode. Well, I
Nah, man,
think
that's just the corona.
yeah, right. I've contracted it. I think with that being said, let's go ahead and bring this bad boy in for a landing. And Alex, thank you again for joining me today, man. It's been awesome talking to you and hanging out. You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
Right
okay.
at the exit. Gotta make it memorable.
Yeah, man. So yeah, man. I really appreciate you being here. And again, go follow Alex on Instagram. It's at Chef Alex G843. And please make sure you go and subscribe to the Brass Tacks Podcast YouTube channel and check us out on all of our social media. Instagram is The Real Brass Tacks. Like our Facebook fan page, Brass Tacks Podcast. We release episodes every week, and I'll be doing some streams from my profile as well as the Brass Tacks profile, and eventually we'll start doing some on YouTube. But Yeah, and Alex, if you have anything else you want to plug or anything else you want to promote, go ahead and let your voice be heard.
No, yeah, no, I appreciate you plugging the Instagram. If people want to follow my random poems, if you like the random bullshits I say, follow my Twitter. I forgot what it is. I think it's Cat Like Thief.
It is.
Cat LK Thief. Yeah. And I used to get drunk and write to it a lot, but now I'm just sober writing, so it's changed. But if you want some random poem, some shit, I don't know what the fuck I write, but I write shit. But I appreciate you having me on, brother.
Yeah, man, anytime, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Always, man. Thank you for the smooth sailing.
All right, brother. You have a good night.
You too, bro.
Thanks, man.
Night.